plan for today's talk is really to dive deep into B2B SEO content strategy, because a lot of you have asked about how this works. And there's certainly a lot of different styles and approaches that people tend to take when it's this particular field. So I'm going to cover the common B2B keyword types, and then we'll go through the page experiences that should be associated with each one of those different keyword types. We'll then show you some search intents and topic discoveries specifically for B2B. And then we'll hit on each one of the common page experiences that you should likely be thinking through if you are in B2B. So that's going to be your topic clusters, your article and resource pages, your comparison pages, and your use case and solutions pages. We'll then go through live examples that are just topics that either we've already sourced from the Google form that we set out, or just live from you in the audience. And then we'll take, obviously, questions along the way. Feel free to just drop questions in the Q&A as we're going, and I'll go through those and answer them as they come up. So the common B2B keyword types and page experiences pretty much get mapped out in these 4 specific buckets. You have your topic clusters, which are going to be your everything you need to know about a particular subject matter: lead generation, ultimate guide to email marketing, that kind of stuff. Secondly, you'll have your resources or your articles, which are going to be more of the how to do lead generation, top benefits of machine learning. You then have your comparison pages, which are going to be a little bit tricky because a lot of B2B software companies don't necessarily want to create the top 10 list of email marketing software and link out to or talk about your competitors. However, it is a pretty compelling strategy. You'll see HubSpot do it with all of the different software categories that they operate in, and it serves them pretty well. Comparison pages are also going to be like competitor versus competitor, or blank software review or alternatives, and writing about those will get you able to rank for a lot of different branded queries and also high-level transactional queries that you're likely to care about. Use case pages are also going to map to comparison pages. That's why you see kind of this asterisk here. Comparison pages kind of have dual intent, in the sense that somebody who's looking for email marketing software might want your email marketing software, or they might want a comparison of the best email marketing softwares. That's why you see them kind of fall into both of these different categories. Content marketing service, same idea. It's both something that you should explicitly have a use case page to say, we at Clearscope offer content marketing services, and also then consider that comparison page as well. And then use cases are oftentimes also just different applications of your particular product. For us at Clearscope, that'd be like content optimization tool or natural language processing entity extraction. So just some examples. We'll send these slides out after the call so you can take a look at what I believe to be some of the better looking shaped like topic clusters, resource or article pages, comparison pages, use case pages. But you'll see all of these working in all shapes and forms for the different keywords that you want to go after. We crowdsourced the topics by obviously sending out the Google form, and we got this range of stuff. So I took then each one of the different keywords and put them into the right bucket of how you would want to approach this particular topic. So software as a service, email marketing, branding, healthcare. You'll notice that those are very high level concepts, and very high level concepts then are best serviced through topic clusters. topic clusters can cover the broad range of different topics that the user would care about within that particular topic. And then they will go and link out to separate standalone resources that address each one of the different subtopics. You'll notice here, AI for retail, content marketing. These are going to be more of a specific like resource. And that's likely because either the topic is more niche or people have preconceived notions about the topic that slant it one way or another. For content marketing specifically, a lot of people kind of want to know how to explain it, some examples, what it is. So you see that it's a more mature topic, and therefore people don't really need to know everything about it, but they care more specifically about certain aspects of it. Comparison pages, right? Appointment scheduling tools, customer software, and then use case pages like this ALPR stands for automated license plate recognition software. That's to say, you know, when somebody's looking for it, they want to know that you do offer it and your key differentiators compared to other people. We did get some other kinds of keywords that I wouldn't necessarily bucket into B2B. So coding classes, industrial products, it's like it's like B2B e-commerce. So it's slightly different. And then coding classes kind of has more of a local feel to it. So we're not going to explicitly cover it in this presentation, but I'm happy to go over how those would look if there's appetite during Q&A and live examples. So first, right, you have to break out the different intents and of what you see for the particular topic. I think a lot of people are throwing around this idea of searcher intent or search perspectives, that kind of stuff. And it's really important to understand the state of where the topic is at. So you see here, I have a screenshot for SaaS. And looking at least just the title tags alone, but if you went in and inspected it deeper, a lot of these are going to be topic clusters, right? They're going to have that, what is a software as a service? How do software as a service work? That kind of stuff. You'll see here the single grain kind of stands out because, right, it's asking, is Netflix a SaaS? And then it goes and explains 25 examples of SaaS companies that are doing something or that are succeeding on the internet. So we have 3 topic clusters and a resource or examples of SaaS. So I went through then the top 30 results of SaaS, and a lot of the searcher intents that seem to be showing up, or the dominant one, is this idea that a lot of people want to know, what is a SaaS? However, other perspectives that shown up during looking at the search engine results will have seen examples of SaaS, pros and cons of SaaS, how does the SaaS business model work, and then IaaS versus PaaS versus SaaS, which I'm not quite sure what those stand for, but there was a piece of content that specifically shown up that was targeting that particular subtopic or search intent. You can see here that I did not find any comparison pages because people aren't saying, oh, best SaaS software. It's like SaaS itself is just a concept. And so a best SaaS software comparison page would be kind of irrelevant for this particular topic. Now, the use cases, I did kind of see a few of those show up. We had like SaaS development platform, like somebody helps, they like give you the foundational building blocks of building a SaaS, and then SaaS integration solutions as another potential use case. The anatomy then of a B2B topic cluster is that you want to cover the broadest range of different subtopics that a user is likely to care about within your topic cluster. How I would do that is by doing what you saw in the screenshot before, is looking at the top 30 results and really trying to understand what are those results, and more importantly, what intent they're servicing, right? So we want to understand that a topic cluster answers the broad topic and the what is intent. So duplicating a resource that is saying, what is software as a service? And then having a topic cluster that also says something along the lines of ultimate guide to software as a service would be kind of blurring together the same intent. We kind of see people do that all the time, and they end up with kind of, you could call it keyword cannibalization to a certain degree, because there's two pages that are competing against the same intent. What you want to then do is have a section on each search intent that is relevant, that the user cares about. And then you want those sections to link out to standalone pieces of content on each of those intents. So an example then of a B2B topic cluster using the SaaS example, you'll have something like, what is a SaaS? Everything you need to know. You'll then start with a section in the above the fold that's basically like, what is a SaaS? Then you'll explain what that is. And then now, more importantly, you'll go through and you'll have these different intents that we identified, right? Examples of SaaS companies showed up on the front page for just SaaS alone. So we'll then want 1 to 5 sentences that talk about examples of SaaS companies, and 1 to 5 is just a general guideline. Then you'll want to link out to a standalone page that's like, oh, and for more examples of SaaS companies, you can check this out. The reason why that's extraordinarily important and something that a lot of people don't do is because they think that their topic cluster, is covering that, or they just put the entire article of examples of SaaS companies inside of the section. But the reason why that's bad is because users have, very granular intents. And we're starting to see that keyword targeting alone doesn't complete the whole picture of doing SEO. You're seeing examples show up. So a title tag that says 36 examples of amazing SaaS companies that thrived during COVID would catch somebody's eye. And then you have a separate page experience or resource experience to service that particular intent. Then you follow that up with more of these different sections that, again, link out to standalone pieces of content that specifically talk about that particular intent. That's to say, the common mistakes then of B2B topic clusters is that you're oftentimes we see people blend together different objectives. We've seen use case pages where it's like, if Clearscope had a page that said content optimization software, and in the first above the fold section, we go in and start explaining what is content optimization software and all of that different stuff. So, and then they're kind of weave in request a demo and that kind of stuff. You should understand that, right? In B2B, if you're not fitting into the 4 kind of distinct buckets, you really have to ask yourself, what is this page doing? What do I want it to do? And how do I make this succeed? Another very common mistake that we see within B2B topic clusters is not covering the range of search intents that are important. So a lot of people will just kind of go with the questions, right? Who, what, when, where, why, answer those, maybe put in a little bit of boilerplate around other features or whatever, and then call it good. But you're really kind of missing high intent relevant subtopics if you're not looking at the search engine results, you're not kind of closely inspecting the people also ask, right? This is why a lot of people do that kind of research, is to make sure that should they create the B2B topic cluster, they are covering the range of search intents that are important. And then the last mistake that we see people make is that they just build the ultimate guide to software as a service, and then that's it, right? They expect that to rank for software as a service. What is software as a service? How do software as a service business models work? But you only have 1 title tag. You only have 1 above the fold experience. By not linking out to standalone pieces of content for the important search intents, you are pigeonholing your topic cluster's ability to perform, because it simply can't lift the heavy weight of all of the other narrow search intents, because there's only 1 title tag and there's only 1 content flow. All right, moving on then from topic clusters. And again, if y'all have any questions, obviously feel free to drop those into the Q&A. Well, we'll take a look at resource pages. Resource pages are going to be like blog pages, articles, that kind of stuff. Looking then at the search intents and the different perspectives that we see showing up for AI for retail, you'll see it is markedly different than software as a service. People aren't like saying, what is AI for retail? Instead, they want to know applications, real world use cases of how AI is being used in retail, right? So you have as SPD Group, like 12 real world use cases, Forbes, 7 ways AI is disrupting the retail industry. You have this use case page by Intellias. And then you have kind of this like benefits of using AI for retail optimization. So when we're then looking at these different buckets, we no longer have that topic cluster bucket because we're not seeing everything you need to know about AI in retail. Instead, we're seeing the benefits of using it, how AI is impacting it, real world examples. And then I think somewhere on the second or third page, there was this idea that was like, is AI in retail here to stay, right? Is this like trendy? Is this gonna stick around? And then I didn't find any comparison pages for, best AI for retail solutions, but that's why I put a question mark there. I think that this is a very niche sort of field. And in the future, should AI for retail stick around and become a bigger industry, there would totally be a comparison intent that users are going to care about. So being then the first to create the best AI for retail solutions or best solutions that do AI for retail is actually going to be really beneficial, especially if you see this space continue to do well. The use case page then does also show up. We saw that with the Intellias use case, and it's just like, we offer artificial intelligence solutions for retail. The anatomy of then a B2B resource page is that you want to understand the dominant search intents for the topic, right? We looked at AI for retail and it was actually a little bit scattered, right? It was sort of like, what's the impact on AI for retail? What are some examples? All of that stuff. So understanding then which ones are more likely to show up, I think like the real world applications thing probably showed up the most when I was taking a look at the search engine results page. And then you want to serve a relevant above the fold experience, right? So that's to say, if you're going to talk about the 12 real world use cases of AI for retail, you don't want to start with what is AI for retail? Again, very common mistake that we see people make. Then you want to augment the piece with just relevant mixed media, citations, that kind of stuff. So this one's a little bit more straightforward, probably what you're more used to when it comes to creating article or blog content, right? I think that it just follows this pretty standard flow. You have the core intent that you're servicing. In this example, it'd be 10 benefits for using AI in retail. Number 1, number 2, that kind of stuff. Again, the most common mistakes then that we see people make is that they're trying to service too many search intents with that particular page. They might say, okay, yeah, well, let's start with what is AI for retail? Again, that's not why the user is here on your page, right? They're here, they clicked in because they wanted to see something about the benefits of using AI in retail. So when you start with what is AI for retail, you're going to make the user maybe question if this piece of content is actually serving their needs, might then end up going back to Google, performing an additional search, or clicking on an additional result, in which case Google might take that as poor user engagement. Targeting the wrong searcher intent is a very common mistake of B2B resource pages. A lot of people either just skip keyword research alone, or they skip search intent or perspective discovery, and they end up going and writing a piece of content that might get some amount of monthly search volume, but is directionally incorrect in what the user is actually caring about. You can imagine if we're talking about, benefits of AI for retail or something, they might go with, I don't know, an angle that's like the pros and cons, but maybe like the cons thing isn't something that people care about. And you end up targeting the wrong searcher intent and then scratching your head 3 months, 6 months down the line when your content isn't ranking. Serving a poor above the fold experience. We see this all the time, like hero photos. That I I do kind of want to say, like, just kind of disregard that idea. There was certainly a time and a place where a hero photo in the above the fold for your blog post was deemed as SEO best practice. And so everybody just started doing it. And they started taking these stock photos and photos that just that aren't even relevant to what you're writing about, and sticking it in the above the fold experience, almost to the point where it just either pushes the entire body of the text way below the fold or just further down the page. So serving a poor above the fold experience is really bad because, again, somebody's clicking in and giving your page the attention of day. And if you're greeting them with, a picture of somebody on a surfboard chilling on a beach somewhere, and we're talking about the benefits of AI in retail, and you kind of try to tie it back to say, like, oh, you'll be on a beach in no time. Again, that's pushing it. I'd say that you should only include a hero photo if the hero photo is actually pretty relevant to what you're talking about. Another very common mistake is not going after zero search volume intents, right? So a lot of you here have been practicing search engine optimization, creating high ranking content for a while. And this concept of going after zero search volume intent can feel a little stressful, right? Because we're basically saying, okay, you should write a piece of content, for example, with AI for retail that talks about how AI impacts retail. Now, if you just looked at keyword search volume alone, that might say 0 or 10 or something like that. However, right, we're entering this era where Google is pretty smart about understanding what users actually care about and using that user engagement signal to place the rankings of content. I honestly believe that when it comes to at least backlinks and user engagement signal, I think backlinks basically get you to the front page of Google. Backlinks and, of course, how your existing content inventory surrounding the topic has done. Now, once you're on the front page or the top 2 pages, I do really think that you're playing the user engagement signal game, right? So at that point, I think building additional backlinks, unless it's a super competitive niche, is probably not going to yield that many dividends. Instead, you kind of have to diagnose, okay, am I serving a poor above the fold? Am I targeting like slightly the wrong search intent? Am I not going after, the dominant zero search volume intent? So these are the common mistakes associated with B2B resource pages. Next page type is going to be your comparison page. You know these as like best customer support software or Clearscope alternatives, something like that. You can see here, customer support software is dominated by comparison pages. And Zendesk is, I guess, on the side that we should talk about our competitors because it'll rank. And they do it and they rank number 1. So comparison best is a touchy subject because you do have to talk about your competitors. You probably also have to link out to your competitors as well. The anatomy then of a B2B comparison page, fairly straightforward, fairly simple. You just list the best software and services of that particular category, and then you convey trust by discussing which criteria you use to evaluate the software. So what are the pros, what are the cons, what are some features that are missing here but are available over there, and then how's the customer service. And then you back that up by conveying more trust, by digging really into the nitty-gritty, providing unique screenshots or usage short videos. So that's to say that I think a lot of people skip that last step, right? They just kind of have a generic screenshot of a homepage of a competitor website. And they say, okay, right, pros, and they basically just kind of go through the like pricing check marks that are on the pricing page. It's like pros, cons, and like too expensive, something like that. So a lot of people skip the real nitty gritty. And I think that over time, those types of pages are going to probably falter. And they're going to lose rankings to pages that put way more of an emphasis on the details, right? Actually proving that they use the software. And this is like, oh, I like pinged the customer support and they got back to me in 3 hours and said this. And that was not very good, right? I think Brian Dean, our backlinko, has a Clearscope review that ranks like #2 for Clearscope. And it goes through like step by step what he did, includes the screenshot of the support ticket that he sent us and the reply, and was like, okay, this is not a bad reply, but it could be better. And when you look at that, you go, all right, clearly this guy has really used this software and I can trust that. And that's why, well, Brian Dean also has an authoritative website, but for sure. But that's the type of review that we want to see, because it's going to engage the user and convince them that you actually know what you're talking about. So this rough anatomy of a comparison page, right? Just 10 best customer support software. Again, just a few sentences describing what it is and then jumping straight to the point, right? Number one, this, blah, blah, blah. I think what a lot of people will do here as well is, if you're in a pretty broad category like customer support software, where you could service multiple different industries, they might kind of break that out by like the categories of the top industries that they might service. So you might have, you know, #1 company for customer support software for like brick and mortar like stores, something like that. And then at the very bottom, people also like usually put in an FAQ. It's like, oh, what you need to know about customer support and, you know, pricing models and contracts and that kind of stuff. So the common mistakes then of B2B comparison sites is servicing too many search intents. Again, there is this general idea that has been floating around longer content is better and trying to stick everything onto each page. And again, right, a page has an objective, and a comparisons page objective is to help people navigate the different solutions that are on the market. And kind of bloating it up by starting with irrelevant informational intents is really not doing your page any good. Even kind of sticking that stuff all the way at the bottom, I would recommend not writing an essay that you see a lot of websites do, but kind of keeping it concise, packaging it together kind of more in an FAQ. And I think that's a much better approach. Not enough evaluation criteria is definitely a big one, kind of blends together with content appears too generic. That's to say that the internet is sort of the wild, wild west, right? And we've gotten to a point where people are cognizant that they can't trust Amazon reviews, and, you know, oh, this website looks a little shady. It doesn't have enough expertise, authority, or trustworthiness. And so you really got to focus on those, lest some algorithm update in the future kind of checks that and kind of wipes you out. So that's the comparison page. Have one more page, and then happy to do some live examples, answer some questions. Your last page type that is going to be part of the core of the 4 page types of B2B SEO is going to be your use case page. So we have here ALPR software, again, automatic license plate recognition software. And we have basically use case, use case, use case, use case, homepage, product page, homepage. Pretty standard and straightforward. Anatomy of a B2B use case page showcases, honestly, the key features of your software. It provides a clear call to action, whether that's a request a demo or stuff about your pricing. It backs that up with social proof, testimonials from key customers and their logos. And it answers all of the frequently asked questions about your software specifically, right? You can imagine that I do a lot of sales at Clearscope and people ask me like, oh, do reports roll over? I'll be like, no, reports don't roll over. Or can I buy standalone reports? It's like, yes, you can buy standalone reports. And all of that is just custom to what we do at Clearscope. So that's to say that the anatomy of a B2B use case page is really to convince whoever lands on that page that your service or solution is better than your competitors. So showcasing the key differentiators, answering questions that they might have but not know that they have, is really the way forward for the B2B use case page. So I have here for automatic license plate recognition, ALP software, bar company, right? It's pretty standard kind of title for solutions or use case page. Then you have your tagline, cleanest, highest quality, automatic ALPR like solution on the market. Request a demo or sign up, followed by social proof, logos, testimonials of key customers, and then differentiating features that you would like to call out specifically based on your own market intelligence of how you fit into the ecosystem. Common mistakes. Blurring searcher intent is just such a common mistake. People will have a use case page that's like, we have the highest quality ALPR thing. And then they'll follow that up with a section that's like, what is ALPR software? And you can imagine that, right? The page itself is not really designed for that particular thing. There are ways that you can artfully do this, right? They'll have sections as like, what is ALPR software? They'll have like 1 to 2 sentences, and I'll just link out to their topic cluster on ALPR software. And there are things that you can do to blend together search intent in a meaningful way, but we just see too many people put, you can imagine like 10 sentences of what is ALPR software on their use case page, and it's really not doing them that much good because the user presumably is there to learn why you're better than the competition. Unclear calls to action, right? People don't know the next step to take. Lack of attention to key sections like features, not having social proof. You'd be surprised, right? A lot of people maybe just have like one quote, no like smiling face, and they wonder why their page is doing worse, right? If the user isn't performing the call to action on the site, then chances are they're not getting what they need. So actually improving your conversion rate on your use case page, we see leads to better SEO because people are finding what they need. Poor or outdated page layouts. It's kind of subjective, but you kind of know one when you like land on one. You're like, this seems more like a web 1.5. I don't know. It just feels a little old or outdated. So that's basically then the examples that we crowdsourced. Happy to go through any that we didn't specifically cover in this particular deck. And I believe we have some stuff happening in chat and some Q&A. So let's take a look at this. All right, Jordan Hollander asks, what would you recommend instead of above the fold hero images? Is it better not to have them at all or just move them down the page? Jordan, that's a great question. So I believe that it's better to probably have a relevant one. And in that case, you can place it wherever you'd like. Or if you don't have a relevant image, then I would say just don't have one at all. I would say that a good way to check to see whether having an image is going to be more impactful is that you simply do the Google search for the topic, right, that you care about. And then if you see the images carousel show up on the Google search results, then clearly having an image of Clearscope would be beneficial in your particular piece of content. If this is missing, right, maybe we're looking at ALPR software as an example, then it probably is less important. However, I think when I was looking at this, there are actually lots of images as key features, because you can imagine this is like license plate recognition software. So people will have like videos on how their solutions work. And so I'm kind of just inspecting what's happening in the ecosystem and whether or not you're seeing competitors have images, that kind of stuff is how I'd evaluate it. No image is better than an irrelevant image, but a relevant image is better than no image. And just put it like that in terms of best practices. Let's see here. Elizabeth Bagan asks, would you call use case pages product pages? Yes, I would call use case pages product pages, solutions pages. You can see here, these are home pages, but they kind of blend together with the like homepage, solutions page, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, if we're talking about SEO best practices, you want to have a product page that then ranks for the particular product use case, like search. That's because maybe sometime in the future, you want to change your homepage because you're adding an additional product line, you're serving an additional industry, something like that happens. Right? You don't want your homepage to be the thing that does all of the heavy lifting because it's more prone to change. That's why people will produce, as you can see here, more of the products, solutions, use case, industries type pages so that they can make adjustments to this page without really having to change how their homepage kind of looks and feels. We have an anonymous attendee. All right, you just asked the same question. Who would you call use case pages, product pages? We have Brian here who asks, how can I use Clearscope research section to help hit the right search intents? Okay, that's a good question. I think we should go through and do a live example. I'm happy to take something here, or if somebody is here and they want to specifically cover one of these different topics that I didn't explicitly cover, feel free to bring that up at this point. All right, so I guess we have some more questions. So I'll come back to the using the Clearscope on search intent stuff. So if you have SaaS product, but it can be used in X, Y, or Z industry, have one product page and then separate pages for X, Y, and Z industries. Yes, that's how I do it. You can see here, I'm gonna bring up mix panel because it just comes off the top of my head. So mix panel, right? They'll have their solutions or their, let me see here, solutions, I guess, I'm not, maybe they changed how this works, but they might have like, you know, app analytics or something like this. What are app analytics, mobile analytics, mix panel, product analytics? I'd say that they had maybe like financial like analytics. They had definitely different industry pages that I guess they don't really have anymore, but yeah, solutions, interesting. So these pages, oh, this is French. Let's see here, who did solutions? If you're wondering like what I'm doing what's called like an advanced search operator. So we could see all of the different pages on a domain that match this particular domain with this particular subdirectory. And I guess they like used to have it. I don't know what happened to their solutions pages, but you can see here it's like user analytics for telecommunications. They would have one that was like user analytics for financial stuff or user analytics for mobile app stuff. And each page would be like, well, as you can imagine, clear call to action. You got your social proof. You have kind of industry specific statistics surrounding it. You have your features specifically addressing that particular industry, and then that's it, right? So this is basically a industry page that maps to a use case and is custom tailored for that each of the different industries that you're going after. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do. I'd break each one out by the different industry and then create these kind of custom pages. This is also what you would do for ads, right? If you were running ads on user analytics for telecommunications, your quality score would be much higher should you send somebody here, and therefore you'd pay less cost per click, and whoever lands on this is presumably way more likely to convert rather than sending them to your homepage. All right, I know we still have to look at something live, but yeah, if y'all have something live that you want me to take a look at, like a topic, please drop that in Q&A or chat. All right, so Uli asks, are topic cluster pages with what is X really needed? It implies the target audience doesn't know anything about the topic, which makes it unlikely they sign up. The type of audience is very top of funnel, so not ready for signing up. Uli, I'm really glad that you asked this question because, right, you do have to think about transactional relevance when it comes to topic selection and during your keyword research. So the true answer is, if you were purely thinking about the percentage or conversion rate potential for a lead to sign up for a topic cluster related thing, like you see kind of with SaaS, I like to bring up like applicant tracking system because you'll see quite a few like topic clusters doing well or used to do well. Like these are both topic clusters. So in a nutshell, yes, topic clusters are kind of not the most lucrative of keywords to go after because they are so informational, right? When somebody's Googling that, they're probably just starting their journey. A lot of people would then argue in two specific fields as to why topic clusters are important. Field number one is nothing to do with search engine optimization, but just general marketing principles, right? If somebody's getting started with their search on any particular topic and they see your brand show up, and 6 months down the road when they're ready to make a purchasing disorder or purchasing order, then they go, oh yeah, I remember, say like JobScan or something like that, then maybe that makes them more inclined to purchase, multi-touch impressions, attributions, that kind of stuff. So that's one camp. Another camp is going to be that you kind of need a topic cluster to rank for broad high-level things, and that then brings up your overall domain's topic authority for that particular topic. That's to say that there is this going thought that Google looks at your domain, sees how it's doing for the range of topics that you're writing about, and then it evaluates that entire range of topics in that particular performance field. So to rank better for the more transactional things that you might want to rank for, like, by applicant tracking system or a specific use case of applicant tracking system, one could argue that a topic cluster would still help you because it helps you bring more topic authority to your website for that particular topic. All right, a couple more things in chat for the mixed panel example. If you had lots of industry pages that had similar content, but are changing H1 and a few other things, will the duplicate content hurt you? That is a good question. I would say probably not, just in the same way that, say like a listing website might, I'm trying to think of a good concrete example to show you, but can't think of one off the top of my head. I would say there is sort of this idea where when somebody lands on the page and they do kind of find what they're looking for, and it is sort of a templated style of page, I don't think duplicate content necessarily will hurt you. Like, for example, in a food delivery like ecosystem, like all of the Boston food delivery, all of the different pages, say for Los Angeles food delivery, for this are going to follow like a similar-ish format. And you'll see here, right, like Grubhub, and then I guess I'll find the Grubhub example over here, right? This is just gonna say like, oh, delivery Texas Austin, find Austin restaurants for free. It'd be like, find lost. It's like the same hero photo, right, between the two. And then they kind of have stuff that's like slightly custom to the area, and then the same categorizations. And then these are, of course, slightly different. And then these are probably more or less the same. And then this is slightly different. And then they have like a block of text here. So basically follows, right, the exact same template, yet you can see that it's still doing perfectly fine because presumably users are finding what they needed. Some amount of customization on the page is obviously going to be beneficial, but I wouldn't worry too much about being punished because the page template looks similar, something like that. All right, we have John Carter here who's asking, how do you deal with pages that cannibalize each other? Product development process and new product development. I have pages on both and they're fighting each for number one. That's a good question. So let's take a look at what's happening. Whoops, this is a Clearscope report. SaaS business model, product development process. And then this is new product development like this. All right, so we're taking a look then at your site. This is probably it. And we have basically these kinds of intents showing up. And so during this step, what I would usually do is I would, of course, jot down the stuff that's working. You have best new product development process, best new product development process. I believe that that's probably you. And then you have here, I think this is a slightly different page, right? New product development. What is new product development? And this one is the best new product development process. So I don't see, I guess, specifically the problem here. It seems that you're doing pretty well across both with two separate pieces of content that are working. And so I would say that, first of all, I want to like reframe keyword cannibalization for a lot of you. A lot of you kind of have a negative connotation associated with it. And I just want to point out that it is not inherently a negative concept. So keyword cannibalization first refers to this idea that you have page A, and you have page B that target keyword like X, that basically both target keyword X, right? And basically the thing is like, sometimes you see this above, sometimes you see this below, and sometimes you just see like one of them doing well. What's happening in keyword cannibalization first is that you're taking Google's experimentation process and dividing it into two separate pages that could fit the target keyword. So first, we want to dissect then that it's a problem. It's more of a problem when you have page A and page B actually targeting the same intent, right? Because targeting the same keyword isn't necessarily bad. I'll just point out this like example here with content marketing. You have Content Marketing Institute, ranked number 1, Content Marketing Institute's homepage, ranked number 2, and Content Marketing Institute ranked number 3. But you can see here, this one's specifically asking what is content marketing, and this one's specifically asking or answering how to explain content marketing to anyone. So as you can see here, you can have different pages targeting the same keyword, but as long as they're targeting, right, different intents, then this is actually not inherently a problem. So first, that. Now, okay, say you do have two pages, right, that are now targeting the same search intent. The reason why keyword cannibalization gets a bad rap is because, let's take for example, that we are starting a brand new website. Domain authority is non-existent, and we happen to create two pages that target the same search intent. Now you can imagine that Google's going to look at our website with no authority and very little content and say, all right, Bernard's blog, it probably, you know, we'll seed it as like position, 67 because yeah, it scored well on Clearscope, but still there's no authority and we can't trust this. Well, you can imagine then at position 67, I might get 10 impressions, right, on the 6th page in the span of, we'll call it like 6 months for the keyword that I wanted to target. Now you can imagine, right, what keyword cannibalization that is doing is that it's splitting Google's testing between two separate pages. Therefore, now I only have 5 data points for each one of these different pages, and say that, right, Google actually was looking for 10 data points before it decided to bump up my page based on like user engagement signals. So in this particular case, if it took me 6 months to get 10 impressions, it's going to take me another 6 months to get 10 more impressions to then breach the threshold of getting 10 data points for Google then to make a decision that one page is better than another page for this particular search intent. So this then is the reason why keyword cannibalization gets a bad rap, because when you have different pages trying to target the same search intent, you're splitting up the experimentation resources that are going to give you statistical confidence with Google that your piece of content is doing well. Now, if you're already on the front page of Google, say for a decently high value keyword, you can imagine that you may get 1,000 impressions or clicks or whatever, like in a week or a month or something like that. You can imagine at this point, keyword cannibalization is actually not inherently that bad, right? Because you're already on the front page and you're already being tested in Google's experimentation queue. So you're actually just giving Google some more data that one particular page on your site is better serving a search intent. That's to say that when it comes to keyword cannibalization, just make sure that you don't have 2 pages that are targeting the same search intent, and understand that 2 pages targeting the same keyword is not necessarily a bad thing, because you can have more than one, as you can see here, result from your domain that ranks for that particular keyword. Okay, we have an anonymous attendee who asks, what are the best practices when using Clearscope to build landing pages? All right, so yeah, let's just go through an example at this point in terms of the stuff. So I guess we'll use, anyone have any strong opinions? I guess we'll use SMS marketing for Shopify, unless there's a strong opinion. All right, so then what we'll do is first we will Google it. And then second, we will run a Clearscope report for this particular use case. We do want to confirm that SMS marketing for Shopify is a use case page, which is why we're Googling it over here. And then you'll see here, I'll just bring up my notepad over on the right. So we'll see here, like number one, when I'm doing this sort of analysis, I do want to like pay attention to two things, like the page type itself, and then kind of the search intent pairing that's associated with it. So you're gonna see me kind of go in 2 different directions with this particular thing. You'll see, right, this is a Shopify app, and then it's just a plugin or solution like that. So that's going to be rank number 1. You'll see here rank number 2 and number 3 and number 4 are just going to be Shopify app, like in their ecosystem, and then followed by a solution like this. You'll see here, right, shop the med detector. This is going to be, in terms of a page type, it's going to be a comparison. And then that's going to be a best, right? You'll see here, this one's different. It's how to use SMS marketing for Shopify. So this is going to be, as you can see here, a resource, and it's going to be talking about how to use SMS marketing for Shopify, like that. And then you'll see here 15 best. So this can be comparison best. You'll see here what every Shopify store should know SMS marketing. It seems like it looks like a topic cluster, right? So topic cluster, and it's sort of like everything, like what every Shopify store should know. Ultimate guide, SMS marketing, you can see here, right? Topic cluster again. And then SMS for Shopify, learn the best practices +4 top. It's probably topic cluster E. They're just kind of taking a different spin, but we'll take a look just to confirm our analysis here. So best practices 4 top use cases, back in stock. Yeah, it's not quite topic clustery, but it kind of has like a blend of like best practices and top stuff. So we could like bucket it as something slightly different, like something like one resource on best practices, and what was the +4 top like use cases, like top use cases, something like this. And then we have this like that. So that'd be the front page. Typically during this exercise, I'm kind of running up on time, but totally down to stay and chill if anybody else has any questions. But I'd be looking at second and third page stuff as well, just to see if there are any missing intents that I haven't noticed, right? Like this, 6 things Shopify merchants need to know. It's probably topic clustery. I'm just gonna like skip over the ones that we've already like captured in this list. So best SMS, right? That looks like SMS marketing integrations for Shopify. So it's slightly different. It's be like, it's probably maybe an integrations page that talks about best integrations, something like this. Oh, well, no, that's just a comparison like that. And then top, so comparison, this is your platform or solutions page. This is a guide, increase Shopify sales with SMS marketing. So that's slightly different, probably, you know, like best practices or benefits, like benefits, best practices, like that. Cool. So that's how that would look. And then you can imagine in the next step, what we want to be doing is to, well, I guess create a topic cluster if we're gonna just walk you through all of these different steps. So what I would do next is we have the SMS marketing for Shopify. We go into your Clearscope report, and then we look at keyword search. For a recap of you that aren't familiar with Clearscope's keyword search, what it is basically doing is that it's going to Google and it is pulling out the most popular Google autocomplete suggestions by appending and prepending the different letters, the numbers, and all of the question modifiers. So we arrive at this. Basically this list, since we're already fairly niche into the or fairly long tail into this particular topic, it doesn't really give us much interesting intel. You can see here, we get the best intent that shows up, but we already have that over here. The next thing then I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into the optimize here. And now I'm going to answer the question around using the research tab. So the research tab is one of Clearscope's newest things. For a recap on what it does, 5 different sections to help you navigate all of the different research that you're likely doing when crafting a piece of content, toplet cluster, or landing page. So themes are going to be looking at the top 100 results, analyzing the title tags, meta descriptions, related searches, and finding the most commonly occurring keywords and terms or concepts associated with that. We use more of a keyword density style approach for themes rather than a natural language processing, because we want to say, okay, something like best is pretty important. You can see here App Store, right? Shopify App Store, messages customers. I would generally take a look to see, why people are talking about messages. And you can see here, it's sort of just like a strategy to boost sales. So SMS marketing for Shopify, you can imagine messaging, text messaging them, text messaging customers really works or something like that. We could probably kind of go, this would be more of a benefits or best practices. So we might say why text messaging customers is important. And this is now more of a topic cluster style post that we're creating. So you can then see for the questions, bit of recap here. What we do is we pull out the most popular questions out of people also ask. And then we use GPT-3, which is a new natural language generation technology, to create more questions for you. So you can see here, right? How do I send SMS from Shopify? What is the best app? But I don't know what that one is. How do I sell SMS? What is the best features? So, right, if we're just approaching this, I'm going to try to make it as comprehensive as possible, hitting all of the different things. We're going to say, okay, first, this is going to be our topic cluster. And we've kind of positioned it around SMS marketing for Shopify, and then tacking on an additional angle, which we feel is pretty important, why text messaging customers for e-commerce is like pretty important. So we gotta have the topic cluster like this. You can imagine that most topic clusters start with, like why SMS, or like what is SMS marketing like for Shopify. It's typically just how most topic clusters start. So we'll kind of take that similar approach right over here. Let's do a normal text right there. Okay, so next from there, we're looking at, these different intents that we saw show up during search intent. We're also looking at these popular questions, trying to blend them together into a structure that makes a ton of sense. So how to use SMS marketing for Shopify, kind of how do I send SMS from Shopify? It's like kind of the same, right? So we might then say, okay, well, first, what I want to point out here is that we did see this as an intent rank as a standalone piece of content, and more interestingly, above the topic clusters, right, in the search results. So we'll say, okay, how to use SMS marketing for Shopify is going to be then a section that we talk about, right? We might do like 1 to 5 sentences. And then it would like link out to a standalone piece on, like SMS marketing, like how to use like this. And again, the reason why this is important is because, well, A, we see it as a question here, and B, we saw a specific standalone resource ranking for that particular intent. So, we want to have our own standalone resource that answers that particular intent. Now you can imagine within this, if we're kind of going with, this is the title tag or H1, and then this would be kind of like the H2. This would then be another core H2 here. And then how to use SMS marketing for Shopify. You can imagine that, like best practices might fit into how to use. So it's like, best practices for sending SMS, through Shopify or something like that. So that we made this in header 3 that belongs to this. However, we saw that these were also standalone resources that were ranking. And so you can imagine we'd want to take the same sort of style and do 1 to 5 sentences, and then have like a best practices show up right inside that. And then you can see here, what are the best features? So you kind of have top use cases. We'll probably slot in kind of this idea of why use SMS marketing for Shopify. You can imagine this kind of covers the benefits angle like that. And then we have the best practices here. And then, top use cases for SMS marketing in Shopify, something like that. And then we'll have this top use cases thing here. So we'll kind of then say, okay, doing 1 to 5 and then top use cases, 1 to 5 and then top use cases like this, I think would make quite a bit of sense. So you can see here, this is how I would approach building topic clusters. We took a look at the search intents that we see showing up, and then we bucketed them into page type and intent. And then I guess a comparison page, right? Again, this is more of a tricky sort of thing. So how to use best practices. You can imagine having a section here then on best SMS marketing apps for Shopify would make a lot of sense. And then you would want 1 to 5 sentences that kind of points out the leaders on the market, including yourself, and then link out to a standalone comparison page on best SMS marketing apps for Shopify. So I'm going to take a look at chat just to see. Okay, so Phil asks, if you're doing a non-topic cluster piece of content, would you use the 1 to 5 sentences plus link strategy for core subtopics? Yes. So for example, we have the top use cases. And now we've identified that we want a top use cases page. Well, you create a top use cases for SMS marketing and Shopify report. And then you can imagine that inside of this text editor experience, we might say there's a lot of reasons why you would want to use Shopify or SMS marketing. Use SMS marketing in Shopify. And then you can imagine, right, what I would do here is I would say, okay, here's the href to like our page on, imagine like benefits, right? But we're not here to talk about benefits, right? Or it's like, like SMS marketing in Shopify is a compelling way to, keep in touch with your e-commerce like users or something like that. And then we might say, okay, compelling way to keep in touch. We might do an href here. And then we would do like to your topic cluster, right? So it'd just be like SMS marketing, right? Like this. So basically, right, what we're doing then is that in the first few sentences, this is why you'll see in this presentation that I have here, let's see here in the examples, this is the landing page example. This is that thing. So it's a B2B resource page. Yeah, 1 to 3 sentences about like what AI in retail looks like. You can imagine this is like 1 to 3 sentences of just like SMS, general SMS marketing in Shopify stuff, except we're taking that to potentially get the user to a different part of our website should they care about that. Instead of, right, you can imagine what a lot of people do is, what is SMS marketing like this? And then they throw in like a whole paragraph there. It's like, we're not doing that. We're just keeping it tight so that, right, it's like these are the top use cases for SMS in SMS marketing in Shopify, right? So we've limited the section to just kind of briefly address what the user could potentially care about at a high level and point out that we have resources on that, except then jump as straight to the point of answering the particular intent as much as possible. So then let's see, I believe, well, we do kind of want to walk through a landing page, like a use case page. So let's take a look at that. Generally, then when it comes to use case pages, just FYI, right? Like SMS marketing for Shopify. What we want to be careful of is the Clearscope report for this particular thing, because that's just, you can see here, there are these other results that are showing up that are not use case pages or solutions pages. So during this particular step, what I'm trying to do is then perform or find the search that strips out as many of the like other intents that we see showing up. So a common one would be like solutions, software, apps, tools, that kind of thing. So when we do this, you'll see here, if we compare that to SMS marketing for Shopify over here on the left, that we get the same stuff, right? Makes sense. These are solutions. And then I guess we still get pretty much kind of the best, but we then get this like remarketee, which was not here over on the left. So best stuff is hard to push out when you're trying to isolate the solutions, or you can imagine like the software or the tool, but we'll just kind of keep trying to poke around a little bit to see if we can isolate that. No, not really. So we're seeing pretty much all of the same like stuff between the two with our searches that are trying to isolate. I'm gonna try one more, like by SMS, to see if that kind of takes out more of the, yeah, it does not. Cool. Okay, so in this particular case, just so that you have the absolute best practices when it comes to Clearscope, I bet that a lot of you probably don't look under the hood, which makes sense. That's why we put it under the hood. You will have a section in your organization called advanced, and like there's a domain blocking. So what a domain blocking allows you to do is to exclude specific domains from Clearscope's analysis. So in this particular case, we would be looking at the search results, and we would see that this is a blog post. And really what we're trying to do is compete against all of these other apps in the App Store because we want our use case page or solutions page to rank well. So in this particular scenario, what I would do if I were doing an absolute best practice approach is that I would block all of these different domains that are simply not meeting the same intent for this particular search as I'm looking to perform. So you can see here in my current domain blacklist, I have a lot of directory websites because they oftentimes are servicing the like best or comparison intent. And it's really hard to get rid of them by selecting a better query. So let's see here, detector like this. Remarketing is actually a Shopify solution, so we'll keep that around. You can imagine you also want to take a look at the second page or third page. Now we'll create the report and we'll have those specific domains blocked, which means that you won't get the natural language processing on these. So then you have a cleaner solutions page to solutions page matchup, because all of the rest of the pieces of content remaining are going after the same intent that you want to go after. So that's going to be what you'd want to do. Blacklist those, kind of identify the query that best fits the solutions page or use case or product landing page, that sort of thing. From there, honestly, when it comes to solutions pages, I'm going to say that Clearscope is, you should think of Clearscope as a last mile optimization for your use case page. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, your use case page is all about your company, right? What you do, what makes you unique, why you're different than your competitors. And you should go all out in presenting that sort of stuff from a social proof thing. I would then take all of that stuff and then put it into my, after I've finished completing the page, I would take that, put it into Clearscope, and then kind of fine tune the wordings here or there. It's probably one of the few scenarios that I would say Clearscope is, I would use and think of Clearscope for a product like a B2B use case page as a last mile optimization. Obviously, I am biased, but I think like starting with a Clearscope analysis for a B2B use case page is pretty roundabout. It would like be saying I'm selling, say, you know, a new protein bar, and I'm basing all of my product landing page about the protein bar based on what, you know, everybody else is talking about, which is what Clearscope does. What I want to do instead is talk about my protein bar and present it in a compelling way that's individually, you know, representative of my business or my product, and then touch it up using Clearscope's a Clearscope report. So let's just take a look at this and pretend like we're going to optimize the, let's see here, SMS marketing in Shopify, something like this. And then we'll just pretend like the, oh, there's that solutions. We'll just look at this remarketee, where did you go? Postscript, sure. This is a homepage. This is the remarketee. I believe like Postscript was the example of the competitor that was like submitted. So what I would do then is I come here, I guess they have like a little slider thing, in which case you can use Clearscope to extract the content from the URL. Just click on the more extract, but we'll just then kind of paste this in here. You'll see it scores as a B-. And then what I would do is I just sort by unused, kind of lightly go through and touch up the different like stuff. It's like, okay, Postscript made our text you know, messaging marketing so easy, like that. So this is one of the few times that you'll probably ever hear me say that just kind of going through and lightly touching up these like little things here and there is how I would actually approach using Clearscope, because again, your product page, your use case page is your page, and you should kind of put a lot of effort into making it more unique and custom to you, and then kind of using Clearscope to just fill in little bits and pieces here and there afterwards, I think makes a lot of sense. You just have to make sure that the overall high level template makes a lot of sense, right? Your tagline, your call to action, your social proof, your key differentiating features, and then kind of write those in that way. Cool. Alrighty. Well, any last questions? Thanks for staying over. I hope that that was helpful for everybody who's still on the call. Brian asks, extremely informative. Will there be a recording of this webinar or another webinar soon in the future? There will definitely be a recording of this webinar. We'll send out the recap email to everybody who RSVP'd tomorrow. And we'll also then upload this to our YouTube channel. And we are on a schedule to do webinars every other week. We have a very lined up July for you. So I think that in July, we'll be doing webinars every week. You can always expect them to be Thursday at 11 a.m. Central. Cool. Any remaining questions or thoughts with anybody still here? Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys really enjoyed that. That was our first office hours. If you do have feedback about how this office hours went, things that we could do better, obviously feel free to just reply to the recap email that will be sent to you tomorrow. And then I plan on doing the style for all of the other interesting niches that we service at Clearscope. So you'll likely see a B2C, probably an e-commerce, a directory, e-commerce directory, I think kind of go together. You can think of those as Amazon or DoorDash, like how to Clearscope and content fit into those. B2C is going to be more just either trendy stuff or more evergreen, like how to water your lawn style stuff. And then I'll probably have one specific one on affiliate, because affiliate is big business. And I think the state of content there has been extraordinarily aggressive. And I think there's even more nuance in the content structure. So we'll talk about that stuff in future webinars. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I'll send y'all the recording tomorrow. Take care.